Hi, I'm Gretchen from A Field at Home, and this is my entry to the Twice as Nice Challenge hosted by Crystal from the Crafty Creech and co-hosted by Levon from Statement Designs. The goal is to take a vintage or antique piece of furniture and flip it with a dual purpose use, style, or design. Is it a bookcase or could it be something else? I've chosen a vintage unfinished bookcase to flip. This piece was made in the late 1980s, no later than 1991, in Dallas, Texas. It was a gift from my mother, and I've been using it for 35 years. I plan to give this piece not only two looks, but also two purposes. Okay, I've cleaned with Simple Green and rinsed. It's all dry now. I'm going to use 240 grit sandpaper. So just put on my PPE, and get going. So I'm going to repair these small dings in the veneer using some DAP plastic Windex. The bookcase is made of plywood with thin oak veneer. It is 1 foot deep, 7 feet tall, and nearly 4 feet wide. The wood was very dry and with deep graining and some chipped areas. So I created a grain filler as opposed to just a wood filler by mixing some DAP wood filler with some acetone, and I applied it to the shelves. I'm trying to get a smooth surface. Okay, I'm going to use a combination. It's 50% water, 50% alcohol. So just to wipe this down and make sure I get all of the sanding dust off. You can see how much filler went into the grain on each of these shelves as I'm cleaning off the dust. First I used a brush to apply the Dixie Belle Bonding Boss, but then I decided to try a foam roller. I ended up preferring the brush, but I switched back and forth throughout the project. Priming did reveal one gouge, which I had missed, so I repaired that before applying color. I wanted a purple to complement a pale yellow room, but the one color my husband said he didn't want was purple, so I chose lavender haze. It has a subtle color when dry. I ended up needing 3 coats because the grain was so deep even after attempting to fill it. I decided to make the bookcase usable as a coffee and tea station or a bookcase. The intention is to use removable vinyl paper in the wet area of the tea station to protect the wood. If a bookcase is desired, the vinyl can be removed to reveal the paint underneath. Moving on to the giant frame itself, I first primed and then filled in some spaces and missing chunks that became more obvious. Hi, so I'm going to try wet sanding the shelves because I'm not very pleased with the level of smoothness that I've so far been able to achieve just with regular sanding in between the coats. So I'm going to give this a try. So see what I can get out of this. We'll see. Pretend this is me sanding my bookshelf. and that the shelves were in fact smoother after the wet sanding, but they were not as smooth as I expected them to become. They were also lavender. Now pretend that this is me painting the bookshelf frame, and that I used a brush and a roller, and that I did 2.5 coats. That half coat being to cover up the few spots that were still left after 2 full coats. It takes 21 days for the Fusion mineral paint to cure, and I didn't have 21 days. So I wanted to use the vinyl removable adhesive paper to protect the wood in the wet areas of the coffee tea bar. So I decided to apply a low adhesive painter's tape first. Hopefully this will allow the vinyl to be removed if and when I decide to return this to being a regular bookshelf. It takes me a ridiculous amount of time to cut. I need 29 inches to go over the side of the so here's what I got left to here. Let's just double check. I'm gonna count. I didn't actually measure, so let's just see if I could count correctly, because it's possible I didn't. Yeah, see, I counted to 30. But anyway, so I will cut 1 inch further in. Just so you know, I have, so this is going to be the top of the shelf. So this will act as the, like the bar. And then on the shelf that's going to be above it, I will want to tape the bottom to protect the shelf from any steam. Now there is going to be just over 3 feet of space, so plenty of room for there to air out. And then of course I will cover the sides and the back of the bookshelf itself. Because it takes me a ridiculous amount of time to cut a relatively straight line, and I move my drill and Forstner bits twice without ever showing you that I cut a hole in the back of the bookshelf for the cords to run through, I can only apologize. Band-Aid, so to speak. So I will be, the ends do have a little teeny tiny lip. I should be able to separate these from. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to try to do the front first. Because of course I need to cover this blue tape, and I want it to look a certain way. So this is all in order to achieve 2 looks, okay? That's the reason I'm doing this. The 2 functions I've already served, because I'm making this both a bookshelf and a coffee bar. But I would also like to have 2 looks. So if you choose to make it back into a, let's say, into a bookshelf, then you should be able to do so by simply removing this removable vinyl. So by that way, I'm hoping to make it twice as nice in 2 ways, both in looks and in, it's not going to let me do that one side, so I'm going to try it this way instead before I completely create chaos. Fortunately, I have this painter's tape, which is going to help me keep it in line, I think. At least in my head it will. So I do need to make sure that it's going to cover the front. So that is very important. Okay, and I probably could move it a little bit the other way. So hope I didn't just hurt the paint. And of course it needs to go all the way to the back because I have plenty for it to fit that way. So, okay. All right, I'm not sure this is straight, but we'll see. If I have to, I can always remove it. Okay, so far so good there. Okay. And here I will just cover the second shelf, the bottom of the top shelf, with the painter's tape in preparation for the vinyl paper. In a supreme act of kindness to all viewers, I am not forcing you to view me struggle with the first piece. But note, I was so put off I forgot to add the painter's tape to the walls.
All the way down. Let's see if I can get this.
So I added a full 20-inch piece to the remainder of the back of the wall. And
just applied tape to kind of help hold it in place while I hold it.
I applied some painter's tape to help hold it in place while I removed the back.
I'm going to try and back
I'm
it up
hoping
a
it
little
helps
bit, put it
anyway.
on time lapse so you can see it. So now I just have to do the side piece and up to the bar shelf, and that shouldn't be too bad because I can cut it exactly to the width I need, and then it'll just be a relatively simple piece. So I'll do that off camera and let you see what it looks like after.
The vinyl didn't want to stick to the painter's tape where it was folded over the edge, so I used my son's fancy hair dryer to heat it and help it along, and happily that worked. So here is a reminder of what it looked like before, and here is the final result. Unfortunately, I didn't use a level to hang those paintings, so sorry they're crooked. I'm fairly pleased with the end result. I'm confident the coffee maker and kettle won't damage the wood, and I love the color. I'm sorry I was unable to make a video of all sides, but I couldn't make my way around such a large piece in the space I had available and keep it in frame. Do you think I made this unfinished vintage bookshelf twice as nice? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.